Hi, and thank you so much for attending our workshop last week. I've been going through your platform game designs and they're absolutely brilliant. I've uploaded all of your files to a Dropbox folder. You should all have the link to this and you're able to download anything that you want to use in your games. Now what I've done here is I've got a folder here called Construct3 Files, and this is your games. These are your game files that you can take and you can play about with them and make any changes that you want to. Here we've also got a folder with your collectibles. It might be that there are extra collectibles in one of the other folders but aren't sort of labelled as well. So here we've got all the extras like backgrounds and objects and platforms for you to jump on, as well as any extra collectibles which weren't actually labelled as collectibles, but basically everything else is in that folder. We've also got your characters. You should each have a folder here, and inside your folder you should have your character that you designed, and maybe if you created some enemies as well, your enemies might be in there too. Okay. If there's anything that you didn't get a chance to make, I'll show you in a bit how you can make them within Construct3, but also just have a rummage around and see what else is available here. For example, if I go to backgrounds and collectibles, there's some really useful little objects here that you could jump around or in. We've got some trees here, we've got some sort of rocks, some bushes and things. So go and have a rummage around in there. These are quite useful little sort of stone platforms if you want to insert those into a game. So use what other people have made as well to populate your game a little bit more. Now, let me show you how you can actually open your games files to play with them and to make any adjustments you want to. Now, you should have a link in your email to Construct3, and that will take you through to what will look like this page here. Okay. Now, I've also included a code. Now, the code that I've given you will give you up till the end of Monday to use. If you want another code after that, just let me know, just drop me an email and I can send you a new code. The codes are time sensitive, but also I've only got 10 of them. So if it doesn't accept the code, it's probably because there's all 10 of them are being used at that moment. So keep trying, or just drop me an email and I'll throw you another code if there's one available. Okay, so the way that you can do that is you go to up here where it says guest. You don't need to have an account, you don't need to register for this. You can just enter your access code, and all you have to do is put in the code that I've given you into that spot there, and that will release all of the extra features within Construct3 so that you can go in and change your game. If you try and use the free version, you probably would find you'll be able to play your game on the free version, but making any sort of substantial changes it might have a little bit of a problem with. So it's worth a try if you can't get the code to work or they're all being used, but you may well need the code to make any changes. So just let me know if you have any issues with that. Okay, so once you put your code in, you then go to open and file, and there you need to open your C3P file. Now your C3P files are all in that Dropbox folder here, the Construct3 files. They're all in here, so you can download these onto your computer, and these are the files that you're going to be opening up and using to edit your game here. Okay, so once you've opened your CP3 file, you should see a window that looks like this. Okay, so this is your game here. Okay, and you can see here, if I just click here, the game is 8,000 pixels wide. Okay, so we're traveling from left to right. Okay, but the actual size of the frame that we see at one point is 1920 by 1080. So that's full HD. Okay, and that's why we were very particular about the size of the backgrounds that you were making and the characters that were going into your game, because if you were to make them too big, then your game would take forever to load. Okay, so if you did get round to making a background, you can start by changing your background if you want to. I should have imported all the correct backgrounds into the right games, but I'm not entirely sure that all of them were labelled 100% correctly. So if you need to change your background, or if you've got a new background that you've made that you want to swap it over for, you can just select the background here. What you might need to check is that the background layer here isn't locked. Okay, if you can't see this layers window here, you might just need to go to menu and view your layers bar. Okay, so these are all the other menus here that you could have on the side. So if you can't see any of these, it might be because they're not selected in here. Okay, so just make sure that anything that you want to change is unlocked. And once you've changed them, it's not a bad idea to lock them once you're done so you don't accidentally move them around. So I've unlocked my background and I'm just going to click, this is Floyd's game, and I'm just going to double click on here. And here's your opportunity to change your background. So I can go to the little file icon up here and I can choose which background I want to use. Now you may have gone through and downloaded your background or perhaps someone else's background, or you might have created a new background that you want to use. Let's have a look in here. Let's find someone's background. There we go, Matilda's background will do. I'm just going to hit open and it's going to open this file here. Okay, so that's going to be my new background. Now, you might be thinking this isn't wide enough. We've got an 8,000 pixel wide screen that we need, but what Construct 3 is coded to do in this particular template is to repeat that background or tile that background in the background. So if I just close that window, there we go. We've got this lovely background in the background. Okay, so that's how you might want to change your background. Now, your characters. You've all got your characters in those folders that I put into Dropbox, so make sure that you've downloaded your folder with your characters on. The chances are I've put the correct character into your game, but just in case I haven't or you want to make any changes, you can double click into here, and here you have got firstly your idle frame. So remember you made those frames so that when your character isn't doing anything, he's not standing or she's not standing completely still. Now, here we've got the jump frame, and then we've got the duck frame, so the one that's labelled down, and then we've got 4 frames for the one labelled run. A few of you have only got 2 frames for your run frames, which is absolutely fine, and for some character designs that's actually works really well. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you just need to check with your character to make sure that your character runs properly. Is firstly, this here is your collision polygon. Now you don't see these points or these lines in your game, but notice that the collision polygon is outlining where your character is. Now what this means is we are telling the software where our character's body is, so if it collides with an object or with a collectible or with an enemy, at any point within this space, it will either bump into something or die or collectible. Okay? Now, Construct 3 does its best to try and guess where these lines are, but it doesn't always do a brilliant job. So it's a good idea to go through every single frame of your animation and just double check the collision polygons. Okay, so it's just this icon here within your character palette. Okay, now secondly, the other thing that you need to check with your character is your image point. Now I like to set my image point right in the middle at the bottom. Okay, now if your image point is over here, for instance, it will mean that your character will suddenly jump to the left hand side and up a little bit every time it goes to that frame. So you just need to tell Construct 3 where the middle point, and I find it most useful to set that to the bottom because that's where it's going to be sitting on the floor if it's not jumping or flinging itself around your game. Okay, so just make sure, and also make sure with every single frame within your run cycle, your walk cycle, the image point is set. Okay, so it's this little target area. Okay, if you're playing your game and your character keeps on jumping to another part of the screen, that will be why. It will be because your image point isn't set in your character. Okay, so in here as well, also if you can't select things, it will be because they're locked over here in your layers palette, but you should, once you've unlocked everything, you should be able to select everything else. So we've got these are, in this instance, the platforms that the character can jump on to get to the collectibles, the eggs here, okay? And I couldn't find an enemy for Floyd, so I'm using Esther's for the moment. But Floyd, you might want to create your own enemy, or you might want to choose a different, alternative enemy from the folder, okay? And if you want to do that, you just select it, double click on it, and you can change it in here. It might be that your enemy is only one frame, in which case that's fine. You can just delete the other frame, or you might have an animated enemy, okay? A little bit like Esther's here. Okay, so let me close that down. So, lastly, your lovely sound that you've made. Now, once you've done all of this and your character is set, your enemies are looking good, and you have created a nice layout, just challenging enough to make your game nice and hard so that it's trickier. I mean, I think this gets a little bit easier. You might need to play around with this a bit, Floyd, to make it a bit harder, a bit more challenging. But once you've done all that, you're going to want to add your sound. Okay, so I'm going to go to Event Sheet here. And what I've done with everybody's is where I've been able to find your sound, your music that you've made, I've set it to your audio here. If you want to change it, all you have to do, you'll probably see yours like this, up in your Event Sheet under Play, on Start of Layout, here's your audio, and all you have to do is double click on your audio here, and you can choose your audio files. They should all be there. It's quite a long list of audio there. You should be able to find your sound, and then make sure you hit done, and don't just close that window. You need to hit done, and it will change the sound up here. Okay. You'll also find, if you have a little dig around in here, you'll also find some alternative sound effects. Now look here, so this is the controls. So notice here it says when keyboard is down, so you're pressing the down arrow, so this is when your character is ducking, the audio will be this one here, okay? For some reason I've set that to a jump sound, but it worked. So here, when keyboard is pressing the up key, here the audio is set to this one. Okay, if you want to change those, you just double click on there and you can change your audio file. Okay, and they should all be there. All those brilliant sound effects that you did with Kate should all be there. So you can change those. I haven't done them for you because a lot of you work together on some of these sound effects and I have absolutely no idea which ones you want to choose. Okay, so I've stuck with the sounds that we already had on that template that we were using. Okay, so that's the jump noise and the noise that your character makes when it ducks down. If I go to enemy, also on collision with enemy audio, here we go, we're using Isaac's fail sound on this one. I think that's a wah, wah, wah sound. And here, if you get, this here means that if you get all of your lives, if you lose all of your lives, the audio plays, and that's the sort of game over or fail noise that you might want to set as well. So again, you can double click on that and choose from the big list of sounds. So that's for if you hit an enemy or if you get game over. And also, we've got audio that plays if you successfully collect one of your collectibles. That lives in there as well. Okay, and then lastly, you've got some audio for if you win the game. That's the sound effect that's set there. Okay, so that's all of your audio down. Now, if you want to test your game, and you can do this at any point you want, you just press on the play preview button up here, and it'll think about it and load it. Okay, I'm just going to hit play. There we go. Okay, and then I can see here and collect all of my eggs. Okay, you get the idea. So now there's a few things that you might want to do here. For instance, you might want to make your character bigger or smaller, and you can do that by dragging the edge here. You might want to create more enemies or more objects for your character to jump on, or you might want to create more collectibles as well. All of these live in your project window up here. So if I go to collect, I can just drag down as many versions of those eggs as I like. Again, my enemy is in here. I can put loads more enemies, make it much, much harder. Okay, or I can, in objects here, I can drag more platforms. Okay, and at any point I can change these. I can go in here and I can change that image for something else, another image. Now, I did mention that you can actually create things within Construct 3. You can draw within Construct 3. So say, for example, here I wanted to actually paint over the top of this or change it. I could do, or I can rub out the whole thing and I can create something completely from scratch. It's a pretty standard, you know, basic drawing application in here. But if you wanted to create a simple shape, you can do, or the brushes aren't too bad. You've got a decent fill tool here. If any of you didn't get a chance to finish off your characters, here might be a chance to sort of add some colour, or maybe fill in some bits that appear see-through if you didn't quite get your characters finished and completed on the day. Okay, so let me just close that down. So here it's changed that shape in every single instance of that single shape throughout the whole of the game. Okay, so once you are done, what to do then? So once you're finished, I'd like you to save your game by going to Menu and Project, Save As, and download a copy. Okay, and I'd like you to make sure that you save your work quite regularly, especially if you go off and have a cup of tea or something and have a bit of a break, and just make sure that you've got your project saved. And it's probably not a bad idea to call this Demo 1, so if you then go and make any changes, you can then call the next one Demo 2, and you can keep track of which project you're working on at that point. Okay, once you've done that, if you'd like me to upload your game onto our account within, let me show you, where is it? There we go, Arcade. This is where you can upload your game. I've got an account with Construct 3, so I can upload it for you. If you want to create your own account and upload it yourself, that's absolutely fine too, but I'd love to see your finished games. And we can upload the game and then share the link with everybody, and you can share it with your friends and families and they can play with it too. You'll also notice on here there's loads of other games on here. It's a huge, huge community of loads of other game designers, and there also is, if I just go back here, no, to this one, there also is loads and loads of examples and templates that you can use as well. So if you want to go crazy and make a completely new game with Construct 3, then you can have a look at some of the tutorials they've got, or some of the templates that they use, and you can have a go at using those too. You could also, if you wanted to, obviously once you've saved your game, you could even go in and start to make some changes to the code that I've written here and see whether you can adjust the way that your character moves. For instance, if you go here and select your character here, you can adjust the speed and the acceleration and the jump strength and the gravity within your game as well. So that's something that I recommend you have a play with. But what I would do is first off worry about what your game looks like, make and save a copy, and then you can start to play around with some of these settings, and then you don't need to worry about screwing up any of the code, because you can always go back and load a previous version of your game. Okay, if you go back and start working on your game again, you will probably just need to go to Open and File and just open the most recent version that you've made of your game. Okay, I really cannot wait to see what you do with this. If you have any problems at all, send me an email or get an adult to send an email my way, and I can help all I can. But hopefully I'll see some of you at Saturday Club next term. Have a lovely Easter. Bye-bye.